My name is Madelaine Horn, and I've been a pro dominatrix for almost 2 years now, and I got into kink too young. um, I got into kink basically kind of by accident, by hanging out with the wrong crowd and ending up modeling at a fetish fashion show when I was 14. And sort of like no looking back after that. So yeah.
When you first started exploring BDSM, did you have like any mentors or anyone that taught you?
Yeah. So at that fetish event that I was at when I was too young, I started talking to a dominatrix, and she offered me an apprenticeship. And I started apprenticing for her at that time. And obviously, I lied about my age. And then eventually, after a couple months, she found out how old I was, and sort of we completely cut it off. But the seed was planted, and I was like, I think like it would almost seem like destined for me, like to just be in this world, you know?
And what was it about like kink and BDSM that attracted you?
Probably originally just the aesthetics of it all. Like I just love the way classic fetish women look. Like, like cinched in waist, impossibly high heels, leather, latex, gloves. It just seemed like so powerful and feminine at the same time, and that's very attractive. So,
Did you have like any role models or influences in the beginning?
I mean, I grew up like with Dita Von Teese being my hero, so like a lot of girls, I think.
Yeah.
And Betty Page and all the usual suspects. And then as I got older, I sort of like I came across like the work of like Masumi Max and Emily Marilyn, and fell into that world. And then later on, Emily Marilyn actually like took me under her wing and did a couple shoots with me, and sort of like got me in touch with a lot of the LA sort of kink scene, and got me some work there, which was really, really cool. And she's my birthday twin too, which is interesting.
Yeah, I worked with her before. She's really nice.
Yeah, she's great.
And how did you get started with professional domination? You said a couple years ago.
Yeah, so I mean, obviously, I've been experimenting and playing with people at play parties and stuff basically my entire adult life. And then my best friend is Damazonia, and she's like a very well-known dom in the world of kink. And she started offering like courses and certification courses for it and stuff. And I decided to take it, and I had so much fun doing the course, like just the camaraderie with the other girls and stuff. And I kind of didn't want the course to end. I was like, you should make this course longer. Like, can we just do this? And yeah, I've been doing it professionally ever since then. So
how long was her course? I'm just curious.
about a month. Yeah, it was like 3 days a week for about a month.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's a decent amount of time. What are some of your favorite toys and specialties that you have in the environment of the dungeon?
I love impact play. Like impact play is definitely one of my favorites, and I love the bullwhip. I like the bullwhip particularly because I feel like it's one of the few tools that really requires a refined amount of skill to use. Like you have to be really good with aim. It takes a while to sort of get the feel of it, to be able to crack it, to be able to, like you have to have a level of skill before you can use it on a human because of the safety involved, like being able to hit those areas. And it's just, yeah, it seems extra sophisticated to me.
Do you think there's, I guess, levels? Like, I would almost consider like vlogging towards the bottom, and then like I guess the single tail, maybe like caning, like at the higher levels of just seriousness. Like, how would you rank things?
Yeah, I mean, flogging is flogging still requires skill though. I mean, I still like, I'm constantly working on my Florentine, and so you can play and get a pretty easy flow with a flogger, but you can up your skill
Yeah.
endlessly basically, which is fun. And
I guess
yeah,
I mean,
I
as far as like how bad it hurts.
oh, for sure. Yeah, flogger is like the beginner.
Yeah.
I feel like the soft leather flogger is like something that's a really nice warm up. And yeah, I like to I like to use that to warm people up and get the blood flowing, as well as my hands.
Oh
Just
yeah.
some spanking, slapping. Yeah.
And how does being a dominatrix like affect your relationships outside the dungeon?
Yeah. Well, um, I don't really date a lot, but I sometimes wonder if I would more if I weren't in sex work. Because I've been in sex work pretty much ever since I was an adult. Like I started, nude modeling and camming and then, stripping and stuff. So I've never not really been in sex work. And it's definitely, I feel like it's more difficult to find a partner. And also, especially as a Dom, I feel like uh it ups your standards because subs treat me really well. Like I have a couple regular good boys that are so good to me, and why would I accept less from a partner, when I have this kind of treatment? So I feel like my standards are at a level now where it's like if you are not really adding and making my life easier and bringing something of value to me, and that doesn't even necessarily mean money, but then I'm not interested if you're not bringing me those things, and a lot of men just are unfortunately a lot of work, and I am straight and I don't need any extra drama and I don't need a baby to take care of, so yeah.
And how about your friends? Are they pretty supportive? The ones
Almost
that
all
are
my
not in
friends
the
are,
kink community.
yeah, almost all my friends are, strippers, doms, or escorts, like just in sex work. So it's I feel like I just gravitate towards people in this community. It just seems very accepting, very free, very aware of, social issues and stuff. And so I don't really even have friends outside. I mean, I guess I have a couple of friends like out there, but they're all in entertainment of some kind. They're
Yeah.
all in art. So yeah.
I know that like Dita and I think Irene Boss, they used to they came from that industry too before they moved out to like for Dita, burlesque and fetish modeling, and Irene Boss being a professional dominatrix. So I think
Okay.
it's a good environment.
Yeah. I mean, I think that it's a certain type of, like, for me, I think, first of all, I love being the center of attention and I love playing dress up. So being a stripper is like great for that. And also, it just allows for a little more freedom if you're somebody that can't, doesn't really thrive in the 9 to 5 kind of setup,
Yeah.
of society and the daytime sort of, like I'm such a night owl and I just do not function in the daytime at all. So um I don't think that I could ever work a regular job, it just doesn't work for me.
Yeah.
And stripping is a lot more flexible, and it also is great for women who are a little more artistic, like leaning, so I think that whatever, if you already have some sort of inclination to sex work, like stripping is a great place to sort of find where you're going to land.
I used to be a manager in that industry for several years, like in my late 20s. And
Yeah.
yeah, I definitely met a lot of good people in the industry.
Yeah.
Um, what is your favorite thing about being a dominatrix or being in the environment of the dungeon?
I think I really like the level of respect that goes around in the industry between both DOMs and also just kinksters in general. Consent is such an important part of the scene, and coming from stripping, it's really refreshing because there's a lot of non-consent that happens there, and it gets pretty exhausting and pretty brutal to deal with after a while. And so for me personally, the level of respect and consent and just awareness that people have of like other humans' boundaries, and that we are all like full human beings and we're there to enjoy, and not take.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's nice.
I know, like, or back to the strip club industry, I know there's a lot of touching and you're not supposed to touch, and like, customers will get kicked out for that stuff. Does that happen at places that you worked at?
Yes and no. Like I work at a full contact club. So in the VIP room there is full contact. Which, like, to an extent, like nobody touches my pussy or anything. I mean, not consensually, but it happens. But like on the floor and on stage and stuff, nobody's supposed to touch, but they still do, right? And it's like, I mean, I feel like it depends how somebody's doing it too. Like a lot of the time, if it's busy, the bouncers aren't really paying attention. So if somebody's doing it in a respectful way, like they're tipping me or they're asking like, can you take it with your boobs or something, and nobody's looking, I'll be like, yeah, sure, But if they're like slapping bills on my ass or something and they didn't ask me and they're just, then that's, it's assault. Like, why are you doing that to somebody, And
that's when you'll flag the bouncer.
Yeah. And hopefully they're available and paying attention. But that is, I feel like that is something that has taken a toll on me in the industry of dancing. Like I'm pretty tired of that.
Sure. It's definitely a different contrast as far as like when you're in the dungeon, like all that's respected.
Oh yeah, exactly. And you're dealing with, in the dungeon it's one-on-one, right? So you're dealing with one person. It's not like a bunch of different people that you're going through with in any given hour, like. And so it's just, it's a lot easier on the nervous system, I think.
Yeah. Can you talk a little bit about the psychological aspect of domination?
Yeah, I think that I could go a lot of places with this. My expertise lies in feminist sort of theory, I think, and the way that it's not really natural in our society for men to submit. So it's a really interesting inclination, I think, when men want to submit to a powerful woman. Like, and I find that desire, it tends to come with other traits that are like I've just noticed that submissive men just tend to be better men all around. Like a lot of the time they're just a lot more attentive, a lot more aware of women's struggles and issues, a lot more interested in like just being compassionate in general as a person, so that's interesting because I don't find the same thing in male doms. I have yet to come across a male dom that isn't a little problematic in some way. That's just my experience, but yeah, that is my experience.
How do you mean by like problematic?
Like just doesn't fully adhere to the rules of boundaries and consent, and doesn't fully go through the protocols of like aftercare. And I feel like there's always something lacking with the male doms that I've encountered. Like they're more in it for themselves and they're not interested in the other person's experience quite as much, which, yeah, is just sort of gross to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely take that could be a problem in the scene, just people not being on the same wavelength, or like you said, one person not fulfilling the needs of the other person and just
Yeah.
being about only their needs.
And going back to psychology, I mean, I feel like, men in our culture for the past, thousands of years have been in a place of prominence, and we live under patriarchy and stuff. So it makes me question, like, why a man who is living with the privileges that they live with in today's society would be inclined to want even more power over women. Like, I mean, and full disclosure, like, I've played with male doms before. I've subbed, and I had a good experience, but he was also not perfect. Like, I still know him now and we talk and stuff. But like, there are some issues there for sure. And yeah, it's just it's sort of curious to me, like, the purity of a man's desire for, like, what do you really want? Like, where does this come from, and why do you feel like you're lacking it somewhere else in life? It's just yeah. I'd be curious to talk to more male doms about that, to be honest. But yeah.
What are some ways that you get inside the mind of your submissive? I guess ways that you could trigger.
I mean, I think in the beginning it's really important just to have really clear conversations, so usually in the beginning of every session, we talk about, like, what expectations, what they want, what they like, what they don't like, boundaries. Even if I've been seeing somebody for a while, still like to go over a little update and everything. And then I feel like as we go, it's like a lot of body language reading for me. And yeah, and just seeing, I like to invoke a little bit of fear for sure. Like, I like to sort of, like, but also create an atmosphere of trust so that my sub always feels safe, but then create small moments of, like, oh, what are we doing now? And then maybe a relief, and then we'll play with it again. It's fun to sort of ride the waves like that.
How much preparation do you put into your sessions? Do you plan them out a lot, or is it?
When I first started sessioning, I would write out, like, every, like, chunk of the session. Like, I'd be like, okay, the first 5 minutes are going to be just, discussing, expectations, boundaries, that. And then I'd be like, okay, 5 to 10, we're going to be doing, like, impact play. And I would, like, go by, like, blocks like that. And now I feel like I just sort of, like, play it by ear. Now I'm comfortable and confident enough to just sort of see where it leads. And yeah, because it doesn't always go to plan. Like, sometimes you'll be like, oh, I wanted to do this, and the sub is actually not really interested in that, or they're not responding the way that you thought they would, or so you have to just be able to pivot. And
does music help you, like, set the mood, or do you prefer just, like, silence?
I have a dungeon playlist, but I never played my dungeon playlist, which is interesting. Lately I've been playing, like I play, like, I don't know if you're familiar with, like, binaural beats and, like, frequency, like, healing frequency music and stuff, but you can find, like, YouTube or, like, even playlists or whatever that are sort of like different frequencies that put your brain into different sort of states.
Wow,
and I've been sort of like, yeah, so I've been sort of, like, playing with that recently. And I also like to play classical music a lot. I found that sometimes the playlist of other music is a little too overstimulating. Like for me, I don't, yeah, Sub has never complained, but I feel like I really need to be in a very specific zone when I'm doming. So
In the past, I just remember I would always hear like a lot of Enigma music or Delirium.
that
So
makes total sense to me. Yeah, because you would think it's like hard industrial or like, you know, like electro or something like what you hear in the club, but it just, I don't know. I found that doesn't really, you want something a little more serene in a session. So
relaxing, yeah.
yeah.
What are your thoughts on what subspace is and top space?
I mean, I think it's really important for Subspace to feel like comfortable enough to let go completely, you know, and creating, it's my job as a dom to create that sort of level of trust and safety for somebody to completely surrender to me. And then I feel like once there's a complete surrender and they feel uh like they're ready to do anything that I tell them to, then that's when their brain is fully in subspace, you know? And for me, top space is sort of, yeah, I think it's when I feel fully in control, but also in a flow state, you know, like I'm, yeah, it's hard to describe, like, or hard to sort of put into words, like how I get there. But when I'm in that space, I feel very much in control and like ready to handle anything that comes my way, but also very like playful and ready to like just sort of flow. That makes
And
sense.
people don't always hit these states, right? Sometimes it'll take a few sessions to get someone there.
Yeah. I mean, there's definitely people that are more resistant than others, you know. There's I feel like sometimes like the bratty ones are, they don't want to get there almost, you know, which like I don't know. Brats aren't my favorite. It's not for everyone, but yeah, it does seem like sometimes people are like, there's certain people that come in with a little bit more resistance to it, and then that makes me question like, why did you come here? Like this is your
Yeah.
choice, you know? But because I'm not somebody that's like, my doming style isn't super forceful or authoritative. Like my doming style is very like goddess. So you're coming to me and you're, you know, impress me, submit to me. What are you doing? I'm not going to force you to do it, you know? So yeah.
Do you think some submissives are like they're there to have fun, and then some others are, I guess, trying to relieve stress or working things out, like therapy wise, like
Yeah.
or
All of those things. I think, yeah, I think I've encountered all of those people. I think I've encountered people who are just sort of trying to discover what they're interested in too. Like if this is their thing, you know. I also had a really interesting session recently of a male dom who came to see me because he wanted to gain more experience and insight into what his subs were experiencing, which I thought was very impressive of a male dom to do. So yeah.
do any other sessions stand out to you as far as like crazy or memorable over the past 2 years?
I mean, I think I talked about this in the last interview we did, but there was
Yeah.
a, like, I love CBT, and a guy came to see me who was really into like very extreme CBT, and I got to like put so many needles in his dick, and he stayed hard the whole time. It was so impressive. I was
Jeez.
like, you literally have 4 needles through the head of your dick right now, and you are rock hard. Like, I, that's the most impressive thing I've ever seen, I think.
Wow. Um, what do you think of all the censorship that's I guess, thrown at the fetish and BDSM community. Like I deal with it a lot with the magazine.
Oh my God.
Like it's an everyday battle.
It's so exhausting. I mean, yeah, anything having to do with sex, really, and especially when it involves women's bodies, seems to be a lot more prevalent than censoring male bodies for whatever reason. But yeah, uh, I mean, it's exhausting. The the markers are always changing, which is sort of difficult too, because like I try to stay up to date with the community guidelines on Instagram or whatever to make sure that I'm staying within them. But there's certain things that, you know, are completely within community guidelines and they get taken down anyways. So it's, you can't always win, you know, and sometimes like I have a guy who's sort of like on the inside, I don't know how he gets his information, but he informed me that no matter how dressed you are, if you have your hands over your boobs, that they don't like that. And it's nowhere in the community guidelines. But I put up a picture where I was like fully dressed, like wearing a suit jacket. And I just was like this, and the picture got flagged. And I was like, that's interesting. Like, but it's exhausting to try and keep up with because that information isn't out there, you know? Yeah. And it's also like, you know, when it started, when the censorship started, it was just about nudity. And then it became, oh, well, people were wearing thongs and stuff. And they're like, oh, well, we don't like that either. So yeah, make that bad. And then it just sort of, they keep adding more and more and more to the point where it's like, okay, well, now you can't have links to adult content, but celebrities can, you know? So it's like, there's so many double standards and we're not moderated equally, and certain people get away with things that other people don't get away with. And like, I mean, I'm a big fan of the rapper Brooke Candy, but what she gets away with on Instagram, I'm just like, how? Like, I mean, and I fully support it. I think everybody should be able to post whatever they want, as long as like, I understand that nudity maybe shouldn't be allowed. 13-year-olds are on there, sure. But like, sexuality is not harmful to young people. You know what I mean? If you're 13, you know what sex is. And like a woman who like has some cleavage or is in like a suggestive position is not harmful, you know? Like, it's really strange to me, like how heavily moderated it is and how other people just seem to completely skate by.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's endlessly infuriating to me.
Brittany will like, she'll always like point out like different accounts, or I think one was like even Playboy magazine. She's like, look what they're getting away with. But it's weird. It's like, I'll go through cycles where it seems like I'm getting attacked or flagged real hard on Instagram, then it'll just go away. And then it'll be on Facebook. So they'll mark my post as spam because I'm telling people to go buy the magazine at cynicalmagazine.com. But I realize they just don't like me putting my link there. They don't want people coming off Facebook. So I stopped doing that, and then they stopped flagging me.
Yeah, that's the interesting thing is like, these are things they don't tell you outright, you know, but then we all have to try and figure it out on our own. And that's not really fair either. There needs to be a lot more transparency, you know?
But I bet if I paid for that post to promote that post, they'd leave me alone, you know?
Yeah, maybe. But I wonder about that too, because there's, because I know like in the sex work community, some girls have paid for the verification check mark to see if that helps. And it doesn't. A lot of them say that it hasn't helped and they still are being shadow banned and are heavily moderated for, you know, very tame content. So it doesn't seem to make a difference a lot of the time. I mean, maybe with the link, it might be different. That might have been it, but it's hard to know. There's no transparency. It's hard to know, you know?
And with YouTube, like I'll try real hard with the video content to make sure, you know, because I don't even publish it until it says all checks complete, and then there's no restrictions, there's no inappropriate content. And then 7 days later, you know, I get a message, this video is restricted. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know if it's their AI programming or algorithms, but it's definitely frustrating.
Well, I think with a lot of, I mean, nowadays there's YouTube and Instagram and all social media is so there's so much traffic that it's impossible to sort of moderate by humans. It's pretty
Yeah.
much all done by AI unless it's appealed, and then I think, I don't know if a person looks at it then or not, or what, but I feel like very few moderation is actually being done by humans.
Yeah, not anymore.
So yeah.
I always try to tell people, though, I think having an email list is super important, because if your accounts get taken down, at least you have your email list of people that you could reach out to, and then they can't take away that. So
yeah, that is a good idea.
can you talk about some of the other things that you're involved in? I know you're a writer.
Yeah, I've been writing like poetry and stuff pretty much ever since I was a kid, but I recently started writing for a local newspaper called the Georgia Straight here in Vancouver. And I write about sex work, and that includes everything from, I wrote an article all about internet moderation and social media and all that stuff. And I write about, feminist issues within the sex work community, BDSM, all that. And yeah, that is my latest love for sure.
And is there anything else that you're working on besides the things we've talked about that you want to mention?
No, I think that's everything right now.
What is the best way for people to contact you for a session?
Miss
modeling.
Horn. Yeah, misshorn.com. It is sort of like my landing page, and it has links to my femdom site, to my clip sites, to my email, to everything is sort of right there. So you can sort of navigate. Even my articles are all linked through there. So whatever facet of me you're interested in, you'll find on misshorn.com.
Well, I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, and I greatly enjoyed doing those photo shoots with you and our video interview.
I love your work so much, so I'm always happy to work with you. And thanks so much for having me.
And Brittany says hi. She's a big fan.
Hi, Brittany.